Welcome to the Unsidelined Life, the podcast that challenges and encourages women to stop denying themselves a full life and to step boldly into the opportunities God is preparing for you. Join me for raw insights and engaging conversations to guide your journey of self-discovery and pursue the life that God created for you. Hi everyone, I am your host for the Unsidelined Life. My name is Eileen Noyes. I wanted to share why I'm doing this thing. I'm on the podcast trail like many people, and so this is my opportunity right now to just kind of share what even led to this. Honestly, I am a very introverted, a very quiet person. However, I feel that out of obedience to what God has called me to do, it is time to share my story. It's time for me to do this podcast stuff. So I'm gonna kind of I'll just tell you where I'm at right now. So this is why I'm doing this. So I used to be a strength coach at San Diego State. And as a strength coach, you kind of, with the athletes, you say, here, this is what the exercise looks like. At least, okay, let me just say this at a strength coach back in the day. So it could be totally different right now. But as a strength coach, you say, hey, this is the exercise as a whole, and then you break it down in parts. And so this is kind of what I'm going to do right now. Again, my name is Eileen. I live with my husband and 8 of our 15. Yes, I said that. Of our 15 kids, I have 8. He's got 7. So all my 8 are out here. Actually, we've got 1 of his living here as well. And so we moved from Wisconsin about 2 or 3 years ago. And so we are starting fresh. Both my husband and I are starting new businesses and just starting life from the frozen tundra to sunny California. So very different, a huge transition, but that's where we are right now. What brought us here? Why the podcast? All that stuff. So if I could break it down, and as you'll see, as we go through the podcast, there's stories that I will say that will help you understand more of, okay, this is who she is and this is why she's doing it. But this is kind of the breakdown. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I used to be part of the NFL world, and you'll see why that's kind of a big thing. I'm not name dropping. I'm not saying, hey, look at me. But it is part of my story. One other thing too is that was one of the just the initial things. Let's just kind of backtrack. So I used to be, like I said, I used to be a strength coach, and then got married to someone in the NFL. So that would transition from knowing knowing all the athletes, having my own life, having my own identity. And then literally it was flying. And again, this is like this is a condensed version, but it was getting on a plane, flying in the morning, getting married in the evening, and starting a whole new life from there, not knowing anybody but one person, and that was my spouse. And so in that life, there was a lot of transition. There was a lot of, like I said, identity stuff. And, again, I'll go through that later, but I was married for 16 years. Like I said, we had 8 kids. We had 7, so we have 7 boys and a girl, but at some point, there was a transition. So, before the 16-year mark, things just transition in our world, in our marriage. We were very outspoken Christians. We loved the Lord. We were passionate to help families get closer to the Lord, to help couples stick it out, work it out, not divorce, help counsel people. We encouraged pro athletes and non-pro athletes have babies. We were living out what we were trying to share with people. And unfortunately, things totally shifted. And again, I'll go through different reasons why, but at some point, there was a crossroads of faith, and my ex decided to follow a teaching that I just knew we couldn't do. And so again, we'll get into all that, but it really just came down to I was in a position where I was in the limelight, and here, like I said, we're outspoken Christians, we're loving the Lord. It's like you don't even want that title, but people are looking at you. You're kind of this role model. You have this platform, and people are looking at you, and people are even saying, "Oh my gosh, you guys are the model family." It's nothing that we ever wanted or I ever wanted. I just lived my life. I wanted to be the best mom. I wanted to be the best wife I could be. And so in this process, as he is transitioning, and as I'm seeing that we're not serving the same God anymore. And I mean, the way that it was, a lot of the teaching had to do with a woman not being, one, she wasn't created in the image of God. And right there, that was a lie that shifted everything. And so the place of a couple complementing each other and having different roles, if all of a sudden I was not on the same level of equality or value, it changed everything. Even though he was like, it's not, it just did. And so I had to do a lot of wrestling with, who am I? Like, what's my identity? I mean, there's already that in regards to, as you step in as a wife and a mom, there is the full consumption of family and wife and chores and diapers and all that. But then on top of that, when you are told, and this teaching is your value and even your salvation is contingent on your performance as a wife, how many babies you have, like how good you are in that. God does answer your prayers. I mean, man, there's a lot where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I? Who am I? God, do you even hear me? It was a lot of that kind of thing. And so as I'm wrestling through this by myself, because I didn't know who would understand, I didn't know who to share it with, I had to go through a lot of, not an identity crisis, but I had to go through like God, who am I? Like, how did this even happen? And I literally felt like I wanted to die. I loved being a wife. I loved being a mom, but I just felt like that joy was being robbed from me because I had to perform, and I was always critiqued and just that kind of thing. And so in doing all that by myself, and then as things were going, we went through, again, in the limelight. Here I'm trying to keep it undercover, but at some point it just got out in the open that this family who was like this is now like their worlds are crashing in. And I had to experience this and protect my kids and, just kind of navigate through this whole process. Yeah, on my own in the public eye. It didn't always, thank God, for community, which is obviously one thing I'm going to be like, just kind of like spurring you on for, is community. But that's what was happening. I went through tremendous turmoil where really it came down to this, like, God, I don't know what's going on. As I got to that breaking point, he completely helped me through. He completely showed me my identity. He showed me who I was in him. He poured out his love on me like I'd never known, because there was a place of like of just performance, not feeling ever good enough. Like God just kiboshed all that. He just showed me his truth. And so as he was going through that, and as we're going through this process of like what's happening to our family, and just learning to follow him in the midst of like the craziest of storms, God got us through in so many different ways. And there's so many of those stories that I want to share. And that was one of the things that God was saying, like, okay, share your story. This has been who knows if you agree with this or not, but when you hear over, share your story. It's like a prophetic word that you are to step into. And so I knew that it was time to do that. I know that's time to do that now. And so one of the things is yes, sharing my story of how God got us through, sharing how I had to navigate and help the kids. We're talking from, at the time I was pregnant, didn't even know it, but we're talking 3 to 15. So 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15 13, 14, 15. I don't know if I'm calculating it right, but I had to help them navigate through. And so I remember going through this whole process and saying, Lord, if I have to go through this, get glory. And that's kind of where we are right now, is okay, this is the glory part of him comforting me through all that so that I can do the same for other people. So to continue on, this whole thing of the idea that I am sharing my stories, this is one reason. So before even the podcast, I have 2 books out. The first one is called Sidelined No More, helping pro athlete wives get off the bench to live out their God-given purpose. And I have it right here. Actually, I have it back here. That. And then the second book is Rise of Lady Bellator, which you'll hear both of them about in this one. So in writing these books, I share my story. I share how God got me through. I share practical application. I share with these women, like, hey, you are not just wife. You are not just mom. Those are amazing things. So please hear my heart, because they're my world, obviously. But living in the fullness of who God created you to be means not totally depleting yourself and not totally denying yourself. It means living fully into this calling that makes you a better mom, it makes you a better wife. And so this is what I'm doing. So there's the opportunity for me to kind of share the books, the principles in the books, which is what I want to do. There's also the desire, which I love to do. I love to teach. I love to and not teach in the sense of, hey, this is, and everybody's teaching styles, but I like to share my experiences so that, one, it can encourage you, and one, it could possibly, you can glean from it. And so there's the books, there's me having a passion to speak, but right now with my kids, with my husband, like, the opportunities are very minimal. So in this, like, why podcast, for me, I look at it as the most efficient way to fit it in my life, to do the things that I want to do, that God is calling me to do, to share my story, to encourage NFL wives, to encourage other women to step out in this calling. Like, don't forget your dreams. It's that kind of thing. And so this is an opportunity for me to do that. And so as we are going into the podcast, and what the structure looks like is this, I'm going to initially, as you guys get to know who the heck I am, because unless you know me personally and you're like, okay, who's this person? I am going to take 2 episodes out of the month to share who I am, to share my stories, like I had talked to you a little bit. I even want to share me helping the kids navigate through. I know that there's so many hurting kids that don't understand in divorce and situations like that. A lot of parents don't know how to talk them through. And one thing that I'm going to very much highlight or address is this program, which totally helped me way before I was coming to the situation, but it gave me the tools to carry through the situation. It's called Life Skills. So to understand how to talk to the kids, to understand and help them to navigate through, as well as, and more so, is asking Holy Spirit to help me help the kids. I know I felt like it was a huge privilege for me to do that as a wife of 7 boys and a girl. I just felt like this mantle of, I don't want the devil to take more than he already has. And it is my job and privilege and honor to help these kids go through. I did not have, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about my emotions. It wasn't about me choosing to be a victim. I knew that I had to push through as a mom to be there for my kids. And so in this podcast, I'm going to have 2 episodes of just sharing my stories. I want to highlight, and which is what I've been doing. This kind of came from interviewing. I was just trying to reach some NFL wives, and I reached back to initially the ones that their husbands played with my ex-husband. And so I reached out to them and I started these conversations. I said, do you mind if we house these conversations and, just see what happens to them? And so in recording these conversations, it just opened the door of going, wow, there is a personality and a person behind just the wife of. And so it was so fun for me, and it's going to continue because we're going to keep doing it. It's been so fun for me to get to know these women in a deeper way. I mean, I know them, but for the audience to be aware, like, oh my gosh, these are the struggles that they've had to deal with, and to highlight them where they are right now. And one question that I always ask, which I want to help the women that are in it now, the young women. I'm 51. So, I mean, these girls are way younger than me. I have a compassion for them because you have to, it's very tempting to play the part. You have to play the part. And how do you stay you in that place is one thing I want to do. So it just started with these conversations with these women. And it came down to like, one question that I always ask all of them is, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self? And so it just kind of went from there. So that will be one interview with an NFL wife. Hopefully it will be expanding outside of NFL. And so that's 1 week. And I also want to highlight what I refer to as Lady Bellator. That was the second book I wrote. Lady Bellator, lady meaning royalty. She's a princess. She is a kingdom daughter, meaning she's we belong to the kingdom of heaven, and our God is our Father, and so we are daughters of God. And so she's a kingdom daughter. She's the bride of Christ. So whether single or married, you are a bride. And so I talk about that in terms of Lady Bellator. She's a contending matriarch. There's a mothering, nurturing thing that is wired in us. Again, even if she's not like a biological mom, there's a nurturing part of every woman. And so then there's the pillar of the impact maker. And so she's a kingdom daughter. She's the bride of Christ. She's a contending matriarch, and she's an impact maker for her community. And so that fourth episode during the month is highlighting someone who's stepping into that, who's, saying like, hey, I'm not just mom, I'm not just wife. This is me highlighting her in stepping into the fullness of what she's called to be. And I'm doing that. And so this is my way of encouraging women. So this is my heart. I want to encourage women. I want to give them hope. I want to give them wisdom. I want to give them practical application. I want them to start nurturing their dreams again and not feeling bad for doing that. And so that is, at least for now, how I am stepping into this whole podcast space. Like I said, this is a way of being efficient. I've done a lot of coaching. I've done a lot of mentoring. And in order for me to keep my priorities straight, as seeking God first, as a wife, as a mother, and everything takes the backseat to that. This is an opportunity for me to promote the book. It's an opportunity for me to, see that I can speak and I can, help people out. I understand. And so this is just an opportunity for me to live out my purposes in the most efficient way. And I don't know about you, if you're a mom, it's all about efficiency and kind of multitasking and things like that. So one thing that I want to say as I cut this particular video short is I love a makeover. I love Pretty Woman. I love Miss Congeniality. I love when you see the yuck and then you see the beauty. I don't know. It's just any sort of makeover is, I'm always drawn to those things. I remember Carrie Underwood. If you guys are old enough and you remember American Idol, on how this simple girl from the Midwest, hardly any makes natural beauty anyways, but hardly any makeup, just, simple girl. And then as she's going every week, when you get to the finals, you see that she's all decked out, dolled up. And not to say that that's, how beauty should be, but I'm just saying hey, this is how I see the podcast. This is me going, okay, who knows if this background is going to stay here? I don't know, if I'm going to, how it's going to look, or even how I sound. I probably have stuttered a lot, all these different things. But it's a starting point. Like I said, I'm just taking a step of obedience to the Lord to share my story, to to give him glory, to give women hope, her voice, when I say her, and just like me, someone needed to and needs to hear my story and what I've gone through. And I know that you, whoever's listening, you have a story, you have purpose that needs to be lived out. And so that is the thing. It's more about you than it is about me. And I'm just hoping that my stories, the things that God has taught me, the women that I highlight, is just a way of encouraging you to see, gosh, I'm more than I realize, and I can make more impact than I realize, and I'm stronger than I realize. I think women just really we just knock ourselves, and that I don't want that. And so this is a way of lifting each other up. And it's really starting on community. And like I said, the thing is, I did life, for a long time because of my situation. I did it on my own. And so if I can help that pro athlete, young wife, in the midst of having to look dolled up and all cutesy and, all that thing, if I can eliminate a lot of the issues and the financial stuff and the stress and the cheating and all that, if I can help her, that would be awesome. If I can help someone who doesn't even know who the heck she is anymore, if I can help her say, hey, you know what? Start tapping into your skills, start tapping into the gifts you have. See that you're more than just serving other people. Yes, we serve other people, but God has given you a purpose. If I can do that for someone, then I've reached my goals. So hope this helps. I will see you back. So yes, this is the Unsidelined Life. I hope you will join me in this journey. Bye.
Until next time, love well, celebrate your strength, and discover the new things you are capable of. You are a light in the lives of those around you, and no night is too dark for you to find your way.